The winter season comes with many ups and downs. The joys of playing in the snow and partaking in winter activities can be good for your body, but if you don't dress properly and take the right precautions, it can lead to danger. Here to tell us more about some winter pitfalls and how to navigate them while having fun is ABC News medical contributor Dr. Christopher McGovern. Hi, Dr. McGovern. Great to see you.
Great to be here on this cold day.
Absolutely. Appropriate day to have this discussion. A lot of us believe, wrongly so, that just going out into the cold weather will make us more likely to catch a cold. Is that right?
That is an absolute myth. And I love my mother dearly, but she is flat out wrong on this one. It makes no sense to worry about dressing warmly when you go out to avoid getting the cold. You can worry about other things. You can catch hypothermia, you can catch frostbite, but there's zero evidence to suggest that you can develop the common cold by dressing improperly and being exposed.
Very important to note. Now, what about going out and playing outdoors? Your kids are going out playing with other kids, may have colds. Are they more likely to catch those colds because they're outside with the...
It's interesting, Tanya. Actually, you're more likely to catch colds certainly by playing with other children who are sick. And if another child has a cold, he's likely to infect you a day before he has symptoms and 5 days after he gets symptoms. So there's a sort of 5-day window where you can catch something. But you're much more likely to catch a cold from another child inside, if you're playing in the basement, if you're sharing crayons, if you're touching things in common. It's much healthier, I think, for kids to get outside if they have a flu this time of year.
Absolutely. Now, are there other common myths that you hear a lot?
There are, of course. You hear the feed a cold, starve a fever,
right,
or the other way around, which I can never get. That's absolute bunk. That doesn't make sense. Chicken soup, does that work? Interestingly, there's a little data that this may work. Chicken soup may not only make you feel better, but there's some anti-inflammatory effects associated with chicken soup, so that makes sense. There's another one about the phlegm that you cough up when you get sick. If it turns green or yellow, that means it's a bacterial infection and you need antibiotics. That is incorrect. That is bunk.
Good to know. Good to know. We're so glad we have you here. Now, let's talk about some serious winter dangers. Frostbite being one of them. How do we catch it?
Yeah, well, frostbite's it's a real problem. It occurs when the skin or the tissue freezes. And the danger with this, if it freezes badly enough, it can be irreversible. There are different degrees of frostbite, and you don't have to be on the north face of Mount Everest to get frostbite. You can get it right here in New York City. If you are exposed waiting out here in Times Square for a bus, and it's 5 degrees out like it's been all week, and there's a small breeze and you don't have a glove on, in 30 minutes, Tanya, you can get frostbite.
Wow.
But alternatively, you can get it much quicker if you're in another location. If you're up in Vermont and you're skiing and it's 10 below and it's windy and you fall down and the snow hits your hand, it doesn't take 30 minutes, it takes 3 minutes. So it all depends on how cold it is, the wind, whether your hand's wet, and how long you've been exposed.
And what are the signs?
Often it's difficult to tell. I got frostbite a few years ago. I walked in the ski lodge. I didn't know I had it until one of my kids said, "Daddy, what's wrong with your face?" I had a white lesion on my face. It's usually not tender. It's not painful at first. It's a white lesion that feels woody and waxy and firm. And then in time, it changes different colors. It can blister. It can turn purple. It can turn black.
So what do you do in the case of you see a lesion? What should you do?
You need to, first of all, try to avoid it, prevent it.
Right.
Cover yourself up. That's the key. Once you've identified that you have it, and it's usually in your fingers or your toes or in your face, you need to elevate the area to decrease swelling. If you have any constrictive clothing on or rings, take them off. And then you need to warm the area. And the best way to do that, Tanya, is to put it in a warm water bath, 100 to 110 degrees. And that's the temperature of a comfortable bath. Many people like to use a blow dryer or put your hand by the fire. That can be a problem because the hand is numb or the fingers can be numb and you can actually burn your hand.
Now, it actually stings when you start to bring your body back from frostbite.
As it recovers, it does sting. That does. But that can be days later. That cannot be right away.
Right.
One of the most important things, Tanya, you don't want to do is you don't want to rub it, because that can cause more tissue damage.
Okay, very good to know. Now, what about hypothermia, another wintertime danger?
Yeah, this is very dangerous. Your body is accustomed to being at 98.5 degrees, and that's where we live. And we're very good at regulating that, making it a little higher, a little lower. But in the cold weather, we can get too cool, and there are different degrees of hypothermia. When you're slightly cold, your body's very smart. It starts to shiver, and what that does is that gets the muscles going, it burns a little energy and warms you up. If that doesn't work, your body says, all right, I'm going to take all this warm blood that I have and keep it centrally in my chest and my belly region and not out in the arms, so your hands start to get cold. That's the initial stages of hypothermia. But then the dangerous area starts after your temperature gets to about 95 degrees. Your body shuts down. It just doesn't work properly. You go into a low metabolic state, confused, you don't make sense, you can trip. This is where mountain climbers get confused and they say, oh, I'm okay, I'll be all right, take off their coat. They don't realize they're actually cold. And then the last stage is the most dangerous stage, where you collapse and you're unconscious for hours.
And how quickly can this happen?
This can happen quickly, but once you enter the last stage, you can actually be unconscious for hours before you actually die, because your body slows down so much.
Wow. Now, before I ask you what we should do when we start to feel that perhaps we're suffering from hypothermia, there's something we shouldn't do, correct? And that has to do with the St. Bernard dog?
That's right. That's exactly right. We all have this image of a St. Bernard rescuing you in the Swiss Alps, and they have this keg underneath their neck with some brandy or some whiskey, and you drink that and you feel better. We all know you drink a little alcohol and you feel warmer, but that is the last thing you do when you have hypothermia. It makes you transiently feel warmer because it dilates your blood vessels, but ultimately it will make you colder.
Because it dehydrates you?
Both it dehydrates you and it opens up the arteries in your extremities so that you're more exposed to the cold. So don't do it. The keys are to warm up.
Right.
You need to find yourself some shelter, get out of wet clothes, drink warm fluids. This is the one time, Tanya, when it's okay to eat sugary foods too, because you get energy from candy bars and that sort of.
Hall pass for that.
That's right. Hall pass if you're getting hypothermia.
Now, what about, you talked about dehydration and water. A lot of people assume you really can't get dehydrated in the winter.
Isn't that the case? I mean, it's counterintuitive. You figure this is something that happens in August when you're sweating at the beach. But water is so important. Your body is made up. 75% of your body is water. So if you lose a little bit of water, everything goes off. Your eyes, your head, your kidneys. There are a couple of reasons why in the wintertime in particular it's an issue. Your brain is programmed to make you less thirsty when it's cold. So you naturally drink less in the wintertime. The air that we breathe in the wintertime is very, very dry. And for us to process it, we have to add moisture to it. And you know, when you breathe out, you can tell there's moisture in that breath that you just breathe out. So you lose a lot of water that way. And the last way, Tanya, is that we bundle up in the wintertime. And even though you don't know it, you do perspire under there, and you evaporate quickly because the air is dry, and you do lose a lot of water that way.
All right, so bottom line, drink up that water.
Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate.
Keep bundled up in the cold. All right, Dr. Christopher McGovern, thank you so much for all of that. And don't forget, you can get more medical news by checking out the health page at abcnews.com.